And, I think movies in general speak to all of us. We quote them. We think about our favorite movie. We think about, why we liked our favorite movie. We talk about the movies after, we go see them in the theaters and, that performance, or, I can't believe that character did this or went there. And I wasn't expecting that ending, sort of thing. So I think movies relate to us, and stories can relate to us.
Welcome to Story Power, a bi-monthly podcast where my guests and I geek out about the stories we're passionate about in all different genres, styles, and formats. My name is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden, and I started this podcast in the summer of 2020 at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. As I watched the reaction of my friends, family, and social media circle, I noticed that many people turned to stories for comfort and help in making sense of the craziness going on around them. My goal was to do the same for my listeners, but as I chatted with my guests throughout the first year, I discovered that their personal stories were the most fascinating thing about each episode. Neil Gaiman says, "Fairy tales are more than true not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten." I now know that sharing our experiences with others helps us defeat our own dragons. It is our stories that connect us to one another. Let's see what wisdom today's guest has to share with us. Today, my guest is Phil Strangolagalli. There, I got it.
Yep.
This is episode 65. So, Phil, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to talk to you because you love film and I love film.
Oh yeah.
And I love the title of your book, Jesus Loves Movies, because even though I don't consider myself a Christian anymore, I am really interested in spirituality.
Mm.
And Jesus is one of my main teachers. So do you want to talk about your book and about faith in film and that kind of thing?
Sure. So went through a really rough time in my life. And this was back in 2017.
Oh yeah.
And, I had a lot of things taken from me, like plans just changed very drastically. And I think, it's something we can all look at, especially in the year of 2020, where a lot of plans did change for a lot of people, and I had that season in my life where, I was really excited. I was kind of going on a path where, everything was going great. I like to describe it as the Count of Monte Cristo, the story. I'm sure you're aware of that story. The film, TV shows, adaptation, been around forever. And that story, I feel like, is a classic, and it's timeless classic because, we can all really relate to it. And especially for me, I related to that story because I felt like I was Edmund. I felt like I was the main character, Dantes. And, I had a lot of things really going for me. I was engaged to my soon to be, and, we're married now, which is awesome. It's a great thing. But, during this period of time, we were engaged and I had plans, and, Edmund was engaged, and Edmund was about to get promoted on his job, and everything was looking great for Edmund. And all of a sudden, someone betrays him.
Right.
And, really falsely accuses him of doing something wrong when he, is pretty innocent. And he gets exiled to a prison island, and he's there, and, he's trying to work out what the heck just happened, and, trying to figure it out, and realizing that people wronged him, and he wanted to take vengeance on the people that wronged him. And, people wronged me in my life. And, I've had to reckon that and realize, okay, do I take this path of forgiveness? And, really wrestling with that whole idea and realizing that forgiveness, was the process on, really setting me free, setting me free from all of it, and from all the pain and the heartache that I went through and all the plans that were taken from me. So I started writing and started watching movies, especially this movie, the 2002 adaptation. And I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And I literally watched that movie 3 times in a row Like I never, really had a back-to-back-to-back movie session quite as that one. Every time I watched it, it spoke even more to me. I was emotional. I started realizing, wow, like I feel like Edmund. Like I feel like this is my situation. And I think movies in general speak to all of us. We quote them. We think about our favorite movie. We think about why we liked our favorite movie. We talk about the movies after we go see them in the theaters, and that performance, or I can't believe that character did this or went there, and I wasn't expecting that ending, sort of thing. So I think movies relate to us, and stories can relate to us because it's somebody creating that, and somebody creating that out of a specific place. So
yeah. So you wrote the book because did you feel like Jesus was speaking to you through that story? Is that why you wrote the book?
Yeah. So really the process on me writing came from a place of, really one of these sort of principles, that I was learning throughout my life, realizing that I needed to grieve over a lot of the losses in my life. Right. And, I kept a grief journal, and really my grief journal is this book. It was me watching film, it was me analyzing, and it was me also getting my junk out to be able to process. I never even planned on writing a book. I never even planned on this coming out and having people see it. And, but it was something I needed to do. It was a catharsis for me. So, yeah.
Yeah. I've been keeping a journal since I was 24. So 44 years. I don't write it, and now I don't write in it every single day, but in the beginning, when I was feeling like you are describing, I wrote a lot in my journal every single day, a lot of pages.
Wow.
And so I understand that need to get all those emotions out.
Wow.
And also try to learn something from it. In fact, I complained in my journal for months. And finally, I was really tired of that. And I said, what am I supposed to be learning from this? And then I started getting answers in my journal. And maybe, maybe that's why we write stories for each other, is so that we can help each other experience things that, on the one hand, that we never would experience if we didn't watch the movie or read the book, but also to help each other heal.
Wow. Yeah. And I do think that most writers, the writing, comes from a personal place, otherwise it wouldn't be, something creative, it comes from a personal place. And whether that's a cathartic place, whether that's a place of, pain and, dealing with that, or, another, sort of creative outlet or aspect. That's what a lot of writers do. So,
yeah. So what do you do for a living? Because I'm looking at I love the background there. Is that really on your wall, or is that just
So this is a part of what I do. I'm a Twitch streamer. I stream on Twitch.
Twitch, never heard of that.
Yeah, so live streaming, like playing video games, streaming, also doing, they're called IRLs, which is just like me chatting and, talking with people and, all that stuff. It's one of the games that I play. I'm a huge nerd. I collect a lot of the pop figures that you see in the background. And so.
Wow, that's cool. And how do you make money doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I like to focus on the motto of my life, really. And that's, life is not about power, money, or fame, but it's about impacting people's lives. And, I really care about the community that, I've been able to foster, whether it's through the book or on Twitch or anywhere else, TikTok or whatever, in life in general. Just to be there for people, just to be a safe space for people. And I mean, Twitch obviously has its monetary, things, that people can support you and, all that stuff. But I do it honestly, really for the community building and, to be able to, have that safe space, especially during that 2020 year where everybody was isolated, and people needed a sense of community. That was a great was a great thing to do. And that's when I really started, streaming a lot. It was the year 2020. So, yeah.
Yeah, I quit teaching full time in 2008.
Okay.
And started teaching part time at the college. I teach theater classes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is fun. And so I wrote a novel. That was the first thing I did.
Yeah.
And then I started a blog in 2013.
Yeah.
And then I'd been thinking about doing a podcast for quite a while, but I didn't start it until 2020.
Yeah.
July of 2020. Yeah. And I do all of that stuff, mostly not making any money at all, because I love it. I love it. And it's only been recently that I thought, I could have a Patreon community, because I really would like to have conversations with people about my podcast episodes or my blogs or whatever I create on Patreon. Because I would for one thing, I would love it to have people talk about, oh, wow, I saw this television show and I really thought it was great. And this is what I liked about it. And I'm recommending it to everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've seen it, what do you think about it?
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite classes to teach is called Dramatic Structure, which is a really boring name for a class where we watch movies or movies that used to be plays that were converted from plays. And then we talk about how are they put together so that you get the theme of the story.
Right.
And also it has to do with, of course, since it's film, how do they shorten, if it's adapted from a book, for example, how do they use the visual language to share what some of the things were in the book?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I use classic movies, and this next fall, I've decided I'm going to do it by decade.
Okay.
So I'll start, I don't have any from 1920s, but I have one that is adapted from a play from the 1920s.
Yeah.
And that's the first one. And then I'm connecting the Thin Man from the 1930s to Knives Out from 2020, connecting them. Yeah. So that's really fun. I like to switch it up.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome that you do theater. I did theater when I was in college. I had the awesome opportunity to be a part of, some productions, and that was really fun. We did the Brothers Grimm Spectaculathon.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, we did Is He Dead with Mark Twain. And we did The Night of the Burning Pestle as well. And that was really fun. It was a great time. I had a ton of fun. Made a lot of people laugh. It was a lot of fun.
I bet. Yeah. Well, I have directed some plays here at the college, but the campus, Cochise College has several campuses because the county's really large.
Okay.
So Wilcox is an hour and a half from Sierra Vista, which is the campus that I'm on.
Yeah.
And Sierra Vista is half an hour or 45 minutes from the Douglas campus, which is the original campus. So, there are all these different campuses. Right. And unfortunately, the Sierra Vista campus doesn't have a theater. But, my co-teacher and I've discovered that there's this big walkthrough at the library called the Library Commons. And we've used that space a couple of times for some performances. So
nice. That's fun.
Yeah. Found space. Yeah. But I've decided I'm not going to direct anymore. I'm not going to even teach probably anymore after next fall semester. Because I want to concentrate on my podcast and my blog and, and be more and create a community like you're doing.
There you go. Yeah. That's awesome.
Because I love talking about, and that's one of the things I do with my dramatic structure students is what are the layers and layers and layers and layers beneath why these characters do what they do. And, and I want to talk just to regular people about that.
Hey. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
It is awesome. So, do you do any other writing?
So, this is the writing that I needed to do. This was the writing that I let out to the world, so to speak. I did something where I wrote a little bit, and I had kind of this new project that was about to come, and it was really promising. There was like a lot of stuff about to happen, and then all of a sudden, it was supposed to be like a biopic, a bio picture, and honestly, it just fell through and didn't work, and yeah, it was a tough thing because I thought that this was like going to be like an awesome opportunity, especially like hearing like who we were about to talk to and like all this stuff. But I continued to write. I continued to write like in my spare time and go through like a lot of things, and I have a lot of inspiring writers, friends, and people that are continuing on the grind and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I guess that was the one project that I was on for a little bit, and for the couple days it was like this is happening, and then it just didn't happen. But yeah, without giving away too much information. But
yeah, that is disappointing when that happens. And then I usually think, oh, well, there must be something better coming.
You know what? Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Seriously.
Yeah,
for sure.
So you're not giving up. You're just keep continuing to write, continuing to see what comes.
Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I love it. Now, where can people find your book?
Everywhere. Yeah. So,
okay.
There's all sorts of formats, it's paperback, ebook, Audible, all that stuff. You can pretty much find it anywhere. You can find it on JesusLovesMovies.com, where I do signed copies and yeah.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. So do you have, other favorite movies besides, The Count of Monte Cristo?
Yeah, so I'm a huge horror fan. I love horror movies. That's just my breath. I really, really like horror films. I feel like, there's a creativity that horror films are able to access that kind of other genres aren't really able to access in certain ways. And sometimes, people give me the side eye and they're like, what? And what do you mean by that? But I do believe the horror genre in general has taken a back seat when it comes to, film genres in general, especially like if we look at something like the latest Academy Awards, right? Where was there any horror film there? And there were some pretty fantastic, films, horror films. And I mean, I'm a horror fan. I really like, any type of horror movie really, except for, a few that don't really have much story to it. But yeah, I'm a huge horror buff.
So the horror film has to have something going on with character and plot.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's the guilty pleasure horror films, where, there's the Day of the Deads and the Shaun of the Dead, all those fun flicks. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not really one for the paranormal activities, that just doesn't really do anything for me. I don't really see like the sustenance. I mean, I get it. There's a thrill to it of like watching the film and all that. But, I really like, The Babadook, Get Out, a lot of those, really passionate, Sinister, a lot of those deep interconnected, interwoven stories about like real life stuff, but it also has elements of the supernatural, as well. So I'm a huge fan of those.
What about John Krasinski's movies?
Quiet Place?
Yes.
Yeah, Quiet Place 1, 2. I actually haven't seen them. Everybody's like recommending me to see them and like all that. And I haven't seen them. Yeah, I haven't seen them.
I'm not a big horror fan just because I am highly sensitive. So sometimes I can't do those.
Listen, and my wife,
the stories sound fantastic, but it's like, I don't know.
There are people that just can't stomach horror films, and I totally get it. And, it's totally fine. Like, but just for me, like, I really find it so artistically moving. Like, like I have a list that I need to see, that I haven't seen, and especially this year. So yeah,
Well, and movies like Get Out have a huge social, well, at least what I've read about it, social commentary
absolutely,
about it.
absolutely.
And so at some point I have to prepare myself, but I may
Yeah,
watch that one.
yeah, yeah. No,
Uh,
I mean,
well, I
it's
had
better.
to
I mean, it's
prepare
better not.
myself to watch Schindler's List. So.
Yeah, no. Hey, if you have an opportunity, I would recommend not watching alone.
Right.
And so
Right.
if you're like coming into the horror genre or anything like that, so
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, some of the 50s horror ones, like right after in the 50s when the bombs had been dropped.
okay,
And it was like them with the big
okay,
ants
right,
or thing Godzilla, those kinds of things.
yeah, okay,
Those are different.
yeah, the monster movie mashups,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Those are
yeah,
different.
yeah,
Because, well, and in the 50s, yes, they had a little bit of a social commentary about
right,
what did we do when we dropped
yeah,
these bombs? But yeah, the other ones
yeah,
are psychological
right,
as
yeah.
well as.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's also a purpose for those films as well, because what they did with special effects,
Oh yeah.
in terms of the advancement, of special effects and puppeteering and
Mm-hmm.
even animatronics as it grew on. And, I'm personally, I like CGI to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe in the practical. I think the practical,
Mm-hmm.
needs to come through more than the CGI elements.
Mm-hmm.
Are there points in which you should have a green screen? Probably.
Yeah.
But I like, great example, Jurassic World. They used maybe like one or two animatronics, but most of them were CGI. And Jurassic Park really, really, I mean, did a great job. On animatronics. So yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking of, my husband and I watched Foundation on Apple Plus, and then we listened to the podcast, and they were talking about how they wanted to use the showrunners were on the podcast, and they wanted to use mostly not CGI, but practical as much as possible. Practical, which I've heard other filmmakers recently say that, well, we wanted to go more practical with this instead of CGI. I mean, CGI is great for some things when you can't accomplish it any other way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. It reminds me actually of an interview. Director just recently, kind of came out. He was doing an interview for his upcoming film. It's called The Ambulance. It just came out with Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the trailer.
I like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. So, but he was talking in the interview, the director, and he was like, "Yeah, the green screen is terrible in this movie." He just drops that like in the middle of his interview, and I'm just like, "Whoa!" In terms of confidence, So that was interesting.
Well, it might have depended on what they were doing. Isn't CGI really expensive though?
I think in certain ways it is. But I just thought it was interesting because I was like, this is the director. He should have his hands all over this project. And he's going ahead and he's saying this about his own film. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, but
how much control did he have?
Yeah, he might not have had much. Yeah. Sometimes the producers get their hands in there.
Yeah.
And I watch lots and lots and lots of special features, and we listen to commentaries and stuff like that. And, sometimes the producers get their hands in there and mess things up. Like the first Doom.
Wow.
They wanted to do something a lot different with it, but the producers kind of got in there and messed things up. So, I mean, it's not a bad film, but I remember it's been a long time since I read the book, but I remember that it wasn't exactly like because there were certain elements that they really changed a lot.
Wow.
In it. So, but we did watch the new Dune, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, it definitely was nominated for a lot of awards, which, I mean, I've seen the film. I thought it was good, and I do believe film criticism is important. Me personally, I don't know that it deserved all the nominations. That's just me. But it definitely, it was good for what it was, in terms of special effects and, the scale of the film was really cool.
That was cool.
I don't know. There were a lot of nominations that I got, and I was like, there were some other films out there, that I feel like
that had
nominated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
And for me, I mean, yes. Okay. The technical stuff is important because I'm always telling my students, you have to watch every single frame and look at the colors, unless it's a black and white film,
right?
But the lighting and you have to look at the costumes and you have and the colors that they use and that kind of thing. But for me, it's always about the characters. So
character development.
Dune to me had great character development. Yeah. And now, of course, we've been meaning to watch Coda. There are others that we've been meaning to watch and haven't watched yet because we only watch a couple of hours of television a night, so you can't keep up with it.
I'm sure you've seen Ted Lasso.
Oh, my husband has watched the first season about 4 times.
Okay.
Yes, we've watched Ted Lasso and we love it.
Yeah, Ted Lasso's great. And talk about character development. They did a phenomenal job on character development. I feel like a TV show has more room in terms of character development than a movie does because it has a longer amount of time, to be able to expand the character.
Right. Unless you're the MCU and you have 22 movies to develop and 3 or 4 television shows. And
and another one that just released today or yesterday.
Oh, what was it? Oh, was Moon that? Knight. Oh, Moon Knight. Yeah, I don't know anything about that one or Morbius. Is that?
Moon Knight is basically Batman, but multiple personalities.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, see, I haven't seen the new Batman.
Or dissociative personality disorder. Not multiple person. That term is gone.
Right.
Dissociative. Yeah. So he's like not in touch with reality, and he's like a Batman-esque character, basically.
Yeah.
Morbius, he's gravely ill, and then seeks refuge in some sort of medicine, and becomes, a vampire.
Oh.
Pretty much.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to watch that at some point. But right now we're just exploring.
Right. Yeah.
And of course we watch a lot of Masterpiece Theater things, a lot of British stuff.
Oh, British stuff's fun.
Yeah.
British comedy. British
or British. We watch a lot of British mysteries too.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And then, of course, we'll probably watch the second season of Bridgerton, the second season of Sanditon. So we watch a wide variety of things: sci-fi, fantasy.
There you go. Yeah. Absolutely.
We don't watch horror a whole lot, but it probably is because we're both highly sensitive people.
Listen, horror, some people cannot stomach horror, and that's totally fine. I've met people that go through, horrors in their real life or working a job that is a real horrific job, and they can't watch horror movies.
Oh, I know.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or something like that, right?
Yeah. And I don't like to watch movies about teachers.
There you go.
Been teaching for 40 something years or something. In terms of, I started when I was 18 working in a Montessori school, and so it's okay. Already been there, done that kind of thing, and it's not interesting really to me. But so I can understand that though.
Yeah.
If you have PTSD or something, you don't want to be watching war films.
Well, I would say yes and no. I mean, there are certain horror films that I can actually release some of those things, I would say.
Oh. Like what? Can you say?
For me personally, I went through some trauma in my life, right? Especially back in 2017. And actually, a movie that I really connected with was The Babadook. It's an Australian film.
Oh, okay.
And really, really good, super scary. But the reality on why it's so scary is because, the main character is stuffing down her grief the whole movie. And the monster is an allegory for her grief.
Yes.
Really. I mean, spoiler alert, but everybody knows it.
Yes.
It's her dealing with that, and it's her learning to live with it, and then also trying to overcome it and facing that. So there's a lot to explore in that film. And especially in my life, I would see things, or I would hear things, and they would, send me, in certain ways. And, I watched Amelie, the main character in the Babadook, and she would react in certain ways. And I was like, whoa, like, this is like what? And then eventually she's overcoming because she stuffed it all down. Eventually she lets it all out.
Right.
And I think it's important, for us to not just hold on to our grief or just hold on to our pain.
Right.
Deal with it,
Right. Because what I've learned is if you try to stuff it down, it comes back bigger and more scary in a more scary way.
And that's the Babadook for you.
Yeah. I mean, I have talked to people, or I have read things where characters think, well, if I don't pay attention to that, then it'll go away. And that just doesn't happen. It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
You have to deal with it eventually.
Yep, you do.
Or die not dealing with anything and living a miserable life.
Wow.
That's, man, I hate those kind of characters, but I've seen them, seen them in stories. Wow. So do you also read books?
I read a few. I've read a few. I like fiction. It's fun. I'm definitely more of an audio visual type of person. And less of a person that reads and all that. But I'm definitely more of an audio visual type of person. But I do read from time to time.
Well, you could read audio
relaxing.
books.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not very good with just audio.
Right.
So maybe that's you too. It's got to have the visual part because I'm a really big one for watching the movie first and then reading the book, because then I have pictures in my head.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, this has been so fun. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, this has been great. I mean, I feel like, you love film, and, you just get it. So it's cool to have a conversation,
Yes, really. Yeah. So do you have a large community on your, what is it? What's the platform?
So I do Twitch, TikTok, and, all that stuff. Yeah, it's fun.
Do you have a large community there?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say it's, the Twitch stats, I think, it says somewhere like I'm in the top 5% or something.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. That is great.
Yeah.
Now, I'm hoping that all of those links are on Podmatch so that I can put them in the show notes.
Yeah.
The links for your communities.
They should be. Yeah,
okay, good. If not, I will email you. But I have to tell you that this probably won't air until the beginning of 2023. Podmatch has been so wonderful to me.
Wow. You got so many appointments. That's awesome.
Sending me all these great people to talk to, like you, that I just went hog wild at the beginning of the year before I had to start teaching in March.
Yeah. Podmatch is a great platform, and Alex, he's a really cool guy too. So
yeah, he is. Well, Phil, thank you so much for talking to me. I appreciate it, and it was so fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It's great. Thanks so much. All right, you have a great one.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye. Before I go, I'd like to give a big shout out to Podmatch, which I call a dating service for podcasters. Since I joined their platform, I have met so many wonderful people from all over the world, And they make the matches so easy that if you are a podcaster or you have a message that you want to share, you might want to consider checking them out. The affiliate link is at the bottom of my show notes on my website at Sage-Woman Chronicles at sagewoman.life. Part of what I love about them is that they promote civil conversations, and can't we use that right now? So if you check them out, tell them Lucinda sent you. I'd also like to invite you to my Patreon community, where we will have chats with authors or creators. We'll have member chats about the stories that they love, and occasionally we'll have extra episodes or uncut episodes of Story Power. So please go check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/storypower without the hyphen, all one word. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend and give us a review on your favorite podcast app. It will help people find us. You'll find the show notes for this episode at my website, Sage-Woman Chronicles at sagewoman.life. You can leave a comment there. And remember, as Philip Pullman said, after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. Until next time, this is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden. Thanks for listening.